Well, still, this is just a 2-score game for Baltimore. 2 touchdowns, almost 6 minutes. We have seen it many times before.
Flacco and company from their own 27.
Can they protect Joe Flacco? That's the big question right now.
Lost the football, scooped it up, and is dropped at the 24.
And the answer on play number 1 is no. Now Flacco does get a chance to park himself back there for just a nanosecond. I think that's Kevin Williams that went by and knocked it out. And luckily Flacco was still free to recover.
2nd and 12. That pass is complete to Rice out of the backfield, and Rice breaking tackle. 30, 20, and out of bounds inside the 15-yard line. Tyrell Johnson saved the touchdown.
And Baltimore will not go away. What a job by Ray Rice of running through about 3 Minnesota tacklers.
That's a 62-yard pickup.
Brad Childress is living.
Flacco out here, complete to Mason. Mason diving for the end zone, touchdown. And Brad Childress is way out on the field yelling at Mike Carey.
Well, how's that for a touchdown drive by Baltimore in what, about 45 seconds or so? There's a bit of a defensive collapse. And with an extra point here, Baltimore is going to be a touchdown and then an extra point from the win.
Housh's kick is good. 30-24 Minnesota.
Well, this again, look at the good block downfield. That's the key. Demetrius Williams, he makes the block downfield, but where's the underneath coverage right here on Derek Mason? Sure, Derek turns upfield and goes, man, I can't believe there's nobody here. Normally you catch a little out like that, you're expecting to have to evade someone within a yard or 2 of where you make the catch. Nobody from Minnesota was within 10 yards of him.
Now Flacco celebrates. Meanwhile, Mike Carey came over to the near sideline and had a brief conversation with Brad Childress.
Well, it wasn't Mike Carey that missed all those tackles in the Minnesota secondary.
Brett Favre waits his turn. Plenty of time.
It's uncomfortable to have what you think is a comfortable lead, and then all of a sudden find yourself in a position where not only is it getting tight, you might lose the game. A game that you have been in command of from the very beginning when you jumped out to a 14-0 lead.
You might say the Ravens and offensive coordinator Cam Cameron have figured some things out since the start of the game.
And remember, we don't know if Adrian Peterson is going to come back in the game or not. That is a big weapon to be without if that's the case.
Percy Harvin a yard deep in the end zone. And barely makes it back to the 15-yard line before he is snowed under. Peterson on the sideline. And we have Percy Harvin down on the field. Remember, he entered this game with a very sore left shoulder.
Oh, boy. Percy Harvin got this game started, and they are going right to that left shoulder again. And that was his injured shoulder. We heard it last week in the game against the Rams. Brad Childress really complimentary of Percy Harvin, saying, I'll tell you one thing about this kid, he's tough. He won't tap out. In other words, there's no way he'll ask to not play. And he started this game off the right way for Minnesota on the opening kickoff, giving them good field position.
Brett Favre says, you know, he's a stud now on the field, but he says, I've told him the light's going to go on for him after I'm gone.
This has not been a very good last minute and a half for the Minnesota Vikings. Adrian Peterson hurts his lower leg. Baltimore goes right down the field and scores a touchdown, and now Percy Harvin is hurt. All in the span of about 90 seconds.
So Harvin up. Taylor. Nothing doing. Kelly Gregg stopping up the middle. Here comes Peterson.
Man, is this some good news for Minnesota?
In about the last 5.5 minutes, we've seen the Vikings put 10 points on the board. The Ravens have put 14 on the board.
And you see it right there in the last 5-11. We had that burst early, then kind of slow in the middle, and now frantic at the end.
Peterson in the backfield, 2nd and 10. Flacco awaits. Favre under pressure and goes down. What a hit from Ray Lewis.
Boy, and Ray Lewis, he comes on a dog where he loops around the defensive tackle that crashes. Watch Lewis right there in the middle. You see right there, he's going to come right off the rear end of his own player, Jared Johnson, and Brett Favre does not see him coming. And by the time he does, nothing he can do about it. Ray Lewis, well executed, well-designed blitz.
3rd sack of the day of Brett Favre. 3rd and 18. He needs the 24-yard line for a first down. Under pressure out of his own end zone. Intended for Chester Taylor. And he just barely got it away.
Well, Rex Ryan may not be calling the defensive plays anymore for Baltimore, but this part hasn't changed. Pressure, pressure, pressure. That time Trevor Price just beats the block. That's not some sophisticated blitz. He just beats the block. And on a one-on-one move, plants Favre.
Ed Reed to return the punt. On the run, dropped it, picked it up, and is out of bounds at about the 34-yard line.
And this, I think, is a stunned crowd in this stadium. This wasn't a question of whether we were going to win or not, these fans are thinking, but by how much. Wow, was that premature thinking.
Ravens with 2 touchdowns in their last 2 drives. On the run.
Unbelievable.
All the way to the end zone is Ray Rice.
I haven't seen a defensive collapse like this in quite a while. Get a tape measure to try to measure how close anyone from Minnesota came to Ray Rice on that touchdown run. Talk about not having to break a tackle.
Hauschka for the lead. And with 3:37 to play in regulation, Baltimore has come all the way back to grab a 1-point lead.
Talk about a well-executed running play. Take a look at this. Just a simple handoff. Chris Chester, the guard, comes around the corner. Terrell Johnson, the safety, that's his play. He's got to make a tackle on it, and he just kind of waves at Rice as he goes by. And after that, man alive. Here's Jared Allen. Todd Heap runs him upfield to the outside. He's out of the play. again, that responsibility belongs to Terrell Johnson, and he just does a wave by at Ray Rice.
Dan, when you consider that at one point in the fourth quarter here, Minnesota held a 30-17 lead. This has been a defensive collapse by the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, it was a game where every time Baltimore crawled back in to get reasonably close, Minnesota always came back and made a play and stretched their lead out even further. But that came to an end. Ray Lewis on the sideline interacting with some fans.
Here's Jamar Johnson. Not going to run it out of his end zone. So Brett Favre. First down, Vikings, their own 20-yard line. We welcome those of you joining us here in Minneapolis. Greg Gumbel along with Dan Deerdorf. The Baltimore Ravens were down 30-17 here in the fourth quarter, have come all the way back to grab a 31-30 lead.
Well, these Viking fans saw Brett Favre do it against San Francisco. A late game comeback. Can he do it again?
Pass to the near sideline, Sidney Rice. Stopped by Frank Walker. 4-yard gain, it'll be 2nd and 6. Joe Flacco has had an extraordinary game, much to Brad Childress's dismay. And Ray Rice just scored the go-ahead touchdown on a 33-yard scamper. And has quieted a really vocal Minnesota crowd. Jared Allen watching from the sideline. 2nd and 6. Favre. Looking deep. Launches it. Penalty marker is thrown. The catch is made by Rice.
Well, that was going to be interference on Frank Walker anyway.
Had his hands full of purple jersey.
He sure did. He knew he was beat. He panicked. But look at Brett Favre, bought time, extended the play with his feet, and then found where he had single coverage. Right there, Walker knows he's in trouble, and there's the grab. He just yanked the back of Sidney Rice's jersey. Look at this right there. Pulls him. He just actually pulls himself along for the ride with the back of that jersey. I don't know how Walker thought that wasn't going to be seen. Great job by Sidney Rice of catching it anyway.
It bears repeating. Brett Favre told us yesterday he likes his chances with Sidney Rice going one-on-one.
He loves the fact that Rice is 6'4" and can elevate.
Here's Adrian Peterson, and he is stacked up at about the 20-yard line. Tavares Gooden led the charge.
Joe Flacco's got to be over there going, who is that number 4 guy?
And there is a timeout on the field that stops the clock with 2:46 to play.